Want help to grow your business? Download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.
Hi, I'm Dr. Fraser, and welcome to the High Performance Show. Now, in this episode, what we're going to talk about is connected relationships. Now, the thing is, our research shows that there are 6 key drivers of high performance: regular recovery, mental toughness, having a mastery mindset, connected relationships, focused mind, and developing self-awareness. And in this episode, we're going to focus on the relationships that we have in our life. Now, Harvard have just done this new study. Well, it's not new, it's actually an old study. It's been going for 75 years, and here is the current primary researcher working on this. Now, so what they've been doing, Harvard, is following this large group of people over 75 years. And what they've been looking at is what in their life influences their health and happiness the most. And what this study has proven is that the thing that drives people's health and happiness the most is the quality of their relationships. Now, what this study showed is that social connection is critical to human beings. They need it. They also showed that loneliness kills. And I'm not talking that loneliness is social isolation. You can be married and lonely. You can have lots of friends and be lonely. What Harvard showed is the quality of that relationship that affects your health and happiness the most. Now, unfortunately, our research is showing that the quality of people's relationships today is suffering. You know, we're not spending enough time with people, or when we are spending time with them, we're exhausted, we're tired, we're frustrated. I mean, think about it. Have you ever taken a bad day home with you? Have you ever taken a bad day out on the significant people in your life? So what research is telling us is that our relationships and the quality of those relationships are critical to our well-being. Now, myself and Deakin University have been looking at this issue. How do people stay more connected? And we've been looking at work-life balance. Now, when I read the research, one of the big problems is most of the strategies for work-life balance revolve around time. And the second one is that most of the research focus on the individual, like what's balance for you? You know, how do you think you'd get balance? And we went, let's flip this model on its head and let's start interviewing people in their lives about balance. So we looked at 2 groups. The first group was people that lived on their own. 24% of Australians live by themselves. So what we did is interviewed significant people in their life, friends, family, partner, loved ones. And we said to those people, if that person had balance, what does it look like? You know, how is their world different if they have balance? And what these people talked about was connection. They didn't talk about time. They said if that person had balance, when they caught up with me, they'd be happier, they'd be more present, they'd be more fun, our relationship would be better. When these people were interviewed about balance, they talked about connection. Now, the second group we talked to were families that lived under the same roof. And we literally sat people down and said, right, if your mum, dad, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, partner had balance, what does that look like? Here's what families said about work-life balance. They said, we get the emails and we get the phone calls. What we don't get is you come through that door and you're a jerk. That's what we don't get. They said, you come through that door and take your day out on us. You come through that door and treat us like an inconvenience. What family said balance would look like is come home in a good mood and engage with us. And they said properly engage with us. So when we talk to family, friends, and loved ones about balance, what they said is balance is not when you show up, it's how you show up. And we started to think, how do we help people do this better? Now, a couple of things happened. Number one, I had an interaction with a CEO that did this really well. So I was working with a company. I do a lot of cultural change and leadership work. And I was working with this company in Brisbane, and I'd gotten to know the CEO really well. And after a workshop, he actually invited me over for dinner with the family. So I'm at this guy's house, sitting around the dinner table with him and his family. However, when I was there, I couldn't take my eyes off this guy. I couldn't stop watching him. And the reason for that is this guy was, in his home environment, was patient, present, relaxed, fun, funny. And I'm just watching him going, man, that's how I want to be when I come home. And as he walks me out of the house, I said to him, look, thanks for dinner. However, I want to ask you a question, and I hope it's not inappropriate, but I have to know, how do you go from psycho businessman to super dad? Like, how do you do that? And he said, well, it's all down to my third space. And I'm thinking, third space? What the hell's a third space? He said, Adam, I realized that my work has a rhythm to it, and that rhythm looks like this. He said, that's work. Crazy day. He says, but my home life has a rhythm that's more like that. It is slower, more nurturing, more supportive, less about KPIs, P&Ls and board papers. He said, it's not that work's bad, home's good. It's just that they are different and they require me to be different. And he said, here's my challenge. He said, I love my job and I work long hours and I feel guilty about that. So I race home at the end of the day. But I drag the mindset of the day home with me. He said, I walk in the door, I'm finishing my wife's sentences because she doesn't talk fast enough. I'm yelling at my kids because they're not efficient with the time that they have available to them. He said, I try and run my home like I run my office. And he said, one day I opened the door of the house, and as I stepped in, he said, you wouldn't believe it. As that door peeled back, I just caught a glimpse of the kids as they ran around the corner of the kitchen and out the backyard. He said, they heard me come home and they took off. And he said, I stood in that doorway devastated. And I just thought, what kind of father comes home? And he said, I walked into my room and I sat down on my bed and I thought, gosh, what just happened? And he said, what I realized is I was like this angry hurricane that just tore through the house, leaving this trail of destruction behind me. Criticized my partner about the state of the house. I'm yelling at my kids about their homework. And he said, I just leave this trail of destruction as I tear through the house. He said, then I discovered a third space. And he said, this is where I changed my mindset from the busy day to a mindset that will suit my home. Now, what he did was kind of impractical. He built a new entrance into his home, like as you do. Then I looked at him and said, you did what? And he goes, I'll show you, it's easier. So he says, come back in the house. So I come back inside, he goes, follow me. We walk down this set of stairs. We go into his garage. He walks up to this door. He goes, Ads, see this door? Goes straight to my bedroom. He said, mate, I parked the car. I get out of the car. I go through the door into my bedroom. I'm not allowed to talk to anyone. I'm off limits. He said, I go into my room. I take off my suit, I have a shower, I put on casual clothes. He said, then I do a 2-minute relaxation exercise on the end of my bed just to chill me out. He said, then I go greet the family. He said, look, I lose 15 minutes, but the mindset I'm in is so worth it. This is the most important thing I do in my day. Now I looked at him and said, really appreciate your advice. Don't have the cash flow to build a new entrance into my home. He said, Adam, you've missed the point. The third space can be anything. It is the drive home, ferry ride, bus ride, walk the dog, go to the gym. He said, it's just a space where you think about, how will I show up when I walk through that door? He said, because how you show up determines what sort of evening you have. You're in a good mood, they're in a good mood. You're in a bad one, they're in a bad one. He said, and even if you live on your own, how you transition home determines whether you relax, unwind, socialise, or obsess and worry about the day. He said, it's all about the transition. Now, I walked away from this going, man, that's interesting. And I thought, I wonder if what we do in this gap between work and home affects work-life balance. So what myself and Deakin University did is we started to explore, what do we need to do between work and home to show up better? And luckily we came up with the magic formula. And this is it. So we asked 600 senior business people and small business owners to practice 3 steps between work and home. Step number 1 was called reflect. And this is where we asked people to reflect on their day. Now what we found is when you get a bunch of people to reflect on their day as they leave it, they focus on all the bad stuff. What they didn't get to, what they got wrong, the mistakes they'd made. So instead, what we got people to do in this reflection was to focus or answer these questions. What went well today? What did I achieve? How do I get better? Now what we showed is when people do this, as they move away from work, they get a burst of happiness, and also their mindset is much more optimistic. The second thing we asked people to do was rest. It's where we got them to do something that made them still and present. Some people said Sudoku on the bus, reading a book on the train, listening to music in my car. That's rest. It's anything that makes you relaxed and calm and focused on one thing. And the last phase is called reset. And this is where we got people to think about how do they want to show up when they walk through that door. Specifically, what is my intention when I get home? And also, how do I have to behave to achieve that intention? We are 600 senior business people and small business owners to practice this every day for a month. And people did it different ways. Like one guy in the study goes, I catch the bus home. I get on the bus, I have an alert come up on my calendar at 6 p.m. Ask me those 3 questions. I type it into the calendar so I keep track of it. Rest is I've got an app that does a 5-minute meditation to chill me out. And then as I walk up the front door, I ask myself that question of how do I want to show up when I walk through that door? Another woman just took this model and stuck it on a dashboard. As she drives home, she does this little process. So people did it differently, but they all...
To continue enjoying this presentation, download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.